This is the Giraffes Don't Eat Steak podcast, a show that brings you marketing stories, tips, hints, and much more. A treat for those who want to succeed in business or marketers who just want to learn. Good morning, Alex. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. We're on day 15 of grey clouds.
Well, welcome to the
Welcome to
UK.
December. But we've only got 2 more days until the sun starts coming up earlier.
That's true. That's
Two
true.
days. In 2 days, it's the shortest day of the year.
Yeah, I'm still wishing for snow, though. No snow on the horizon, but I can hope.
We had so much snow on the way up to Scotland a couple of weeks ago. We got
Lucky.
Well, we were lucky because it just started snowing when we reached Cumbria, and we left Cumbria. And by the time we left, it was like absolutely hammering it down. And within half an hour, they closed the motorway. And then people were abandoning their cars, and so we only just made it into Scotland. And it was like chaos there for like 2 or 3 days. So we were lucky, actually.
Okay, abandoning your car doesn't sound fun. I'm still in the snow is wonderful phase. Leave me there.
No, I think it can be wonderful. It is wonderful, but just not on a motorway.
Okay. All right. I hope I don't get there. Right. What are we talking about today, Alex?
I think we're talking about values.
Values? What are values?
Well, there's business values, there's personal values. I think we all have values. I think everybody has values, but they may not necessarily know what they are. But people do have values. Every decision that you make, every thought you have on a subject or an opinion is based on the values you have that have, the roots of your family. They're always values. They are, so I think that they're a natural part of our life. But sometimes when they converge with the business, they can become unnatural if they're, I don't know, I'm not sure how to say this, but if they're forced upon or not used correctly, then they can become unnatural. And I think values are something that we need to really take time to understand what they are, and the people that work with us, and what the business means to make them natural, and then so that everybody can work and be aligned to those values every single day. If not, they can kind of become lost in a cupboard.
That's true. I was chatting to my sister last week and she said, Erica, you're so corporate. Because I was asking her about her business vision, mission, and values. She said, that's such a corporate thing. And I thought about it, I dwell on everything people say. And I thought about it for a while and I thought it is corporate. That is where I learned it, right? In corporate, that's what you do is you get issued the company's vision, mission, values, and get told, here they are. And I think the big problem with corporates, big ones especially, is that they do it wrong. Someone in marketing or HR, even worse, HR, right, writes up these values. And nothing against HR people, I love HR people, but they write up these values, stick it in a book or put it on the website, send it out to the staff, and go, here we are. And then that's the end. They never get mentioned again. They never get talked about again. They don't get used in any way. And I think that's such an opportunity for small business owners in particular to actually embrace that and say, this defines who we are as a business. This defines who we hire. This
Mm.
defines what we do, what partnerships we're willing to work with and who we're not, right?
Yeah.
And I think even though it's corporate speak, it's something corporate has done right and I think small business should embrace it.
Well, I think it's very important, especially if from a small business owner, the owner will have, building their product when they are initially creating an idea and selling it in the early days. A lot of people are buying it. Well, okay, a lot of people are buying it because it's your mum or your brother or sister, but a lot of people are also buying it because they know who you are and they relate to you. They relate to the values that you have, and that's okay to bring those into the business, because that's the reason that you have produced a product or service that people relate to, from a person that people relate to. And after all, people buy from people. So I think as a small business owner, it's very important, especially if you expand. Not all business owners want to expand, but if you expand, then going through the hiring process, it's really good to have those values in your mind and to see if people match up with those, because they're ultimately going to be the ones representing your business. And if they're going out on their own, you want them to reflect what has made you or your business special or unique. Um,
Absolutely.
because let's be honest, most products and services, 99% of them, there's already those products and services available.
Yeah,
So what is it that makes you stand out from the crowd? It's usually your unique fingerprint, and your unique fingerprint or culture. I think culture can be almost interchangeable with internal values, though. So that's an important thing to really have at the forefront of the business, because that's what makes you stand out from your competitors.
yeah, I agree. And interesting you mentioned about growing, because my sister asked me the same question. She said, "Why do I need to write it down?" Because I said to her, "You are instinctively making decisions based on your values every day. Just by being you, the way you operate, the decisions you're making, your values are there, but you can't articulate them." And she said, "Why do I need to?" And I said, "Because you want to grow. If you want to just stay a one-man band running your own show, that's fine. Then you probably don't need to articulate them, you know. But as soon as you want to get your message out further, you want to get something out on a website, you need to start being able to articulate it so that you give your brain less work to do. Because right now, your brain and your gut is making those decisions based on values that you can't even articulate. But if you've got them down, you move that into an external thought process of almost a tick list going, that is why this doesn't feel right, instead of it sitting for maybe a day or two going, ooh, this doesn't feel right and I don't know why, right? So you're also making it easier by taking what's already happening in your mind and you don't know it, but getting it out on paper so that it becomes a little bit less work for your brain. I'm
Yeah.
lazy, as you know.
No, but you're absolutely right, and it really helps with messaging, and any communication that you're doing with your customers, especially when we start talking about benefits, not just benefits of the product or services, but with us, working with us, why us?
Exactly.
And it's and I always think about this. People buy from people, and even just like look at LinkedIn, for example, it's a business platform, but who do people engage with? The people,
Yeah,
not the brand. I mean, they okay, I'm not you don't people do engage with the brands, but I mean, in a ratio, it's more heavily weighted towards engagement with individuals.
absolutely. And I was using one of our values as an example to explain it. And one of our values is um, fun, right? What do we have? We had fun and weirdness.
Mm-hmm.
And I was explaining to her that if you want to work with us, you kind of need to be able to laugh a lot because that's what we do. You need to be able to look at the quirky side of life. And if that's not you, if you're going to come in serious, we're probably not going to gel. It's not,
Yeah,
we can get the work done, but we're both not going to, we're not going to enjoy it. The client's not going to enjoy it, which means we're not giving our 100%, which means the client's, it's actually just going to be a complete disconnect. So best have it out there going, if you want fun and weirdness, then we're the right people for you. But if you just want ordinary and suit and tie, yeah, probably not the right fit.
yeah, exactly. I was actually doing a presentation the other day at a small business and around values. And I used a short Simon Sinek video because I really liked it. It was his. I knew you were going to roll your eyes, but it was very good for this purpose because he was talking about the military, and he had talked the military, and they're using a graph of on the vertical axis, it's high performance, and on the horizontal axis is trust, and trust being being the value. Um, Cut a long story short, it's basically they would rather people who are, if anything, they'd rather low performers and high trust rather than high performance, low trust. because high performance and high performance leaders start creating a toxic environment, and especially in a thing like the military, where the most important thing is trust and being able to have each other's back. And it's just quite interesting to see that, you know, the military, they would, when you think it's all about performance or executing a mission, the most important thing is trust is way more important than the actual performance. And I think that's quite good in the business sense as well, because and he's also saying everything we do is measuring the performance value.
Mm.
We have all sorts of metrics to perform to measure how well someone is performing, but we forget about things like trust. And he said um, everybody knows who the asshole is in the business. You like say, who's the asshole in the business? Everyone's like, that person. They're usually the high performer, but you know, low trust or whatever. But then they can also point out who is the person who is the most trustworthy and builds teams and blah, 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 blah. And they're the people that you actually want, because they align with your values. And they help keep your business on the same direction as it always has been, rather than creating a toxic environment.
Yeah, that's true. And so many businesses forget that, especially as they grow. And you see this in corporates, right? They forget the values completely, only
Yeah,
look at bottom line, and then wonder why all their people are leaving.
yeah,
You
no,
know,
exactly.
like, why is everyone leaving? Well, have you looked at who's at the top there and what's happening?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's fascinating.
The
I mean,
business I'm talking about, also they have as their as part of one of their metrics in the performance value valuation for the evaluation for the year is trust. Trust is one of them, which I think is really nice. So they're bringing in the values, all of the values, as one of the indicators of your performance evaluation for the year.
no, absolutely. One of I can't even remember which way I was working, but they we did 360-degree feedback. And every year, everyone above, sideways, and below you had to fill in a form about how you were. And the first time was horrendous. You were petrified, right? But you got real feedback on how you were performing as a teammate, as a manager, as a, you know, and that was used in your performance review. So I recommended that somewhere else a couple of weeks ago, and everyone was a resounding no, which actually gives you a good idea that things are probably not where they should be, right? If
Yeah,
you don't want to hear the feedback of your
yeah,
colleagues,
yeah.
something's up.
That speaks volumes, doesn't it? So how do you, what would you suggest? What would your advice be to someone who wants to understand what the values are for their business? Should we maybe, and maybe it's the same for both, but let's take a large corporation versus a small 15 man band.
Yeah, I think for larger ones, it's difficult. Number one, because of the corporate structure, etc., it's really hard. But even within a team, if you have a team and you lead a team, you can get your team's feedback and say, what do we think our team values are? There are lots of online stuff that you can do that's free with lists and lists of values, and you can send that out to people and they can tick the top five, and then you can look for synergies. And even if you don't use that publicly, it's also a really good team building exercise, right? To see where are we aligned as a team and where are we misaligned. I think that's a really good exercise to do. And then even if you start using that as your team values, because often there's very little influence you can have over corporate values. But you can start saying, well, as a team, this is how we're going to operate. This is who we are. This is what we stand for. But then also, as you start, maybe you have to hire new people into the team, etc. It's then a good checkpoint to say, hold on, does this person fit these values, or is it going to create discord? What do you think?
No, I've never actually thought about that. I think that's why not have values within a business, values within values for small teams, especially because the small teams effectively work like an organization
They
within an
do.
organization. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So just having internal values. But I do agree for a larger organization, it is difficult to create a company-wide value, especially if you're coming up, you've got a business of 1,000 people.
Yeah.
It's very hard to have 1,000 people who are exactly aligned. but I think for me anyway, I feel like to get the true value of a business is from the start. Where did it start, and how did it start, and from who did it start, and what were their beliefs at that time? Maybe it changes with time, but I think it's really important to try and tap into that and understand where it came from, and I think that's where the value of the business comes from.
Yeah. A lot of the time, though, especially with entrepreneurs, right, when they're one-man bands, it is very selfish focused. And they kind of have to be to succeed, right? They got to be stubborn, they got to be arrogant, they got to be so words that we generally associate negatively, but persistent. Like if you have to, the first door they knocked on to try and get their idea across the line, I bet people didn't go, "Oh, what a wonderful guy! This is such a wonderful person." Because in order to, you've got to have a thick skin to put up with all the rejection. So it's also being able to balance, to understand that persona versus the real persona, right?
Yeah. If you had to think of one question to ask someone to a business owner who started the product or service, what would the question be? Would it be something around why why this product or why this service or
I'm not sure that would go into values. That for me would give me more vision, mission. I'd start. That would give me that. But the question, and this is the one I asked my sister, is who, what would be a no for you? What, what would happen, or what would be, or what which would say no if someone came with $1 million saying, "I want your product or service," right? So it's money. The money's on the table. What would it take for you to go, "No, thanks"?
mm,
Because that for me is an obvious value decision, right? Because if it's not money, if you will take the money,
mm,
but what is it going to take for you to go, "Ugh, this doesn't feel right"? And of course, like, "Oh, we'll take the money. We'll always take the money," right? Because that feels like the easy answer. But if you sit and think about it, there'll be something, that doesn't feel right. And even just thinking about past relationships, past partners you've had, past people you've worked with, you'll know there's something that didn't feel right. So I start with the negatives and then turn that into the positive value that I want.
yeah,
And maybe that's just me. That's how I find it easier to do is say, well, what is it I don't want? And we did that with one of our values is relationships, right? And it took us a long time to actually come up with that word, if you remember, because we would try to think about when doesn't it work with clients? And we had some clients that was brilliant and some clients where it just didn't gel, like it just missed the mark. And we worked out it was relationship building. It was the give and take. And it was um, an interesting dynamic. A couple of weeks ago, I met with someone and she's worked for the business 10 years. And, I've only worked with them 6 months, whatever. I'm a we person from day one. The day I walk into the business, it's a we business.
yeah. And just
And
even in the terminology, right? How you
how I speak, we went this way. Even people I don't work with anymore, I'm still saying we, right? Like literally people that, we finished our projects with, whatever. I still talk we when I talk about, like I'm in there. But this person had worked there 10 years, still said they. And I think that's the crux of our relationship, a
mm,
value is we are in it from the first day we work with a client. It becomes our business, right?
yeah,
And if the client is not willing for us to be in that, then it's not going to work. It's
mm,
not going to work. And so that's the crux. And so that's an example of something that didn't come easily to us. But once we'd spoken about it and unpacked
mm,
it and really thought about what worked and didn't work, something as simple as how we speak, we say we. And you're the same as me. We are we. The day the customer said yes, we are we. We're
we
in it.
exactly,
We're in their website. We're looking at. We're in it, right? And
like,
and we will make it succeed.
yeah.
but it has to be from the customer side as well. They have to let us be a we. If
Yeah.
they only see us as a tool, then it never quite gels.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that. I even from like an individual point of view within a business, for example, if I've just done the work and I've done all the work, and I'm presenting the work, I still wouldn't say I did this. I say we've done this, we've achieved this, we've. I still think it's we, because we're all in it together. We're supporting each other in maybe not directly, but indirectly. So it's a we. We're in it together. That's just for me. That's my natural value.
Mm. And mine, that's probably why
Yeah,
you and I get on
yeah,
well.
exactly.
And also tells us very clearly amongst the colleagues that we didn't get along with, right? With the I colleagues, right? You can see it clearly now, right?
Yeah, exactly. And what about internal values versus external values? So, like internal values, sort of like who we are, and external values, I guess, like what we do, how we do it, or how we present ourselves. Do you feel do you, what's your opinion on working on external values as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's easier if they can align. That's
Yeah.
that's like first prize, right? If your internal and your external values can align. If they need to be different, I try and not make them too different. Subtle wording differences because you're reflecting different things, right? For internal, you're talking about how we behave, how we, and for external, it's how we show up. So it's the same thing, but it's a different, like different sides of the apple, right? You're looking
Hmm.
at it differently. I
What,
honestly, I think the easiest is if they align. If
yeah,
you need to have something different, I would never have more than one or two different ones. I keep the core the same, and then just slight deviations
yeah,
on one or two of them.
yeah. I think you're right. I think it's the terminology. So
Yeah.
again, I've been working on some recently. If you look at them just face value, they're completely different words, all three of them. So the three internal ones versus the external ones are completely different in terms of the words, but they actually have the same essence.
Mm.
They they all really mean the same thing if you really dig into the meaning of them. But the external ones have more of a ring to it from a customer from the customer point of view. It makes them sound like, oh, that sounds like what their purpose is when they're working with us, what the outcome is going to be from us working together. And I
Yeah,
think
that
that's the
works.
important thing. You just need to switch it so it becomes almost like a benefit to them.
No, exactly. That's it. It's the terminology you use, right? But the core needs to be exactly the same
Yeah.
because you can't be two different people. That doesn't work.
No, because you can't have multiple personalities.
Well, some people try, sadly, right? That's the problem.
Yeah, that's true.
Awesome.
But, so okay, what's the key takeaway then from today?
Well, I would say call to action. If you haven't got some values, that just go for it. Even if you're a one-man band, whatever it is, just sit and think, right? For half an hour with a cup of tea, whatever you need, and just say, what is it that drives your business? What is it you want to be known for? That's a question I was asked a couple of weeks ago, and I was still stuck with it. But what are your values? And it's really worthwhile and also an interesting exploration into who you are and what you stand for. I found it very interesting. I know we did, Alex,
Yeah,
when we did it.
yeah,
So that's what I would say is get get some. And then how do you share that with your staff? That's a whole nother episode we can do,
yeah,
is communicating it, right?
yeah,
Once you have your business values, how do you onboard new people with them? How do you get people involved? And how do you make sure they stay visible and active values, not in a file?
yeah. And do you think getting and getting asking somebody how they perceive you? I always think like because the customer like your brand who your brand is how the customers see it, right?
Yeah.
So if someone says to you, as you as a person and as you as a in your business, you're extremely trustworthy, you're blah 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 whatever. I think that has quite a lot of weight as well, because sometimes it can be really hard to look inside and understand what your values are.
Yeah, and I agree with that. Although I mean, and
It
sometimes
can be a
hard
bit
to
of a red
take.
herring. It can be a bit of a red herring, I think, but it's hard to take.
It can be hard to take. I
Yeah,
got some
yeah.
feedback the other day on our website actually, and my LinkedIn profile, and how I'm perceived. And apparently, I come across cold, and I don't think I am.
No, that's
But
yeah.
but apparently, according to my LinkedIn stuff, my business, my our website, I am cold. And so that's had to take a deep breath, do a little sob, and then stand back and say, okay, what is it? So yes, definitely ask. I think who you ask is important. Don't ask your mum. Um,
If I asked my mum, she'd give me an extremely honest point of view, and it'd probably hurt
but
me.
she's not your target
No,
market,
it's not.
right? No, don't. No, not only because, well, most mums either will rip you apart or give you the soft lovey-dovey. I don't think mums have a middle ground. Um, but and don't ask your friends. Don't ask someone who knows you. You need to ask your target audience. You need to ask the people you actually want to appeal to, right? That's who you need to ask. But then, yeah, be aware that what you thought you were doing
Mm,
may not be the truth, and then be open to accept or just ignore. You can, right? It's a choice
yeah.
in life.
And do you think there's value in asking, doing it in an anonymous form? I feel like people change when you're speaking to them directly. It's easier for someone to be honest if they don't know it's coming from you, right?
No, that's true. Anonymous is always easier. But I don't know.
It's hard to prod someone if you just send out a questionnaire, you know.
And how do you know you're getting the right target audience? I'm very keen on that. You know, when people put on LinkedIn or Facebook, oh, I've just launched my new website. What do you think? I want to, oh, what my new logo. What do you think? I want to cry. I'm like, you're getting feedback from 100 people who are completely the wrong audience, and you're going to take their feedback like it's wrong. So that's the whole problem. Unless you're really sure on your targeting
Yeah,
and you're absolutely sure that all the anonymous feedback will
yeah,
be in the right range.
yeah. Unless they're genuinely not actually doing it for the feedback. They're just doing it for some kind of publicity. Oh, we've got a new website. Oh, we're
No,
doing
I know that. I know that's why they're doing it, but I just get annoyed every time. But and also with anonymous surveys, if people are in a hurry, they tick the first option,
yeah,
so there's risks, all risks to surveys. Um, I think first step for me, sit and think. I think everyone deep down inside knows, but you got to spend some time quiet, without distraction, and just think about, like we did, who did you enjoy working with? Why? Who did you not enjoy? Why? What were the trigger points? What will make you say never, ever, ever? And what will make your life at your work, your job, your career fun? Because that's you need to enjoy it. You need to not have a Monday morning, oh, I don't want to do this feeling.
yeah.
So what is it that makes it that, and what will make it the opposite?
And what about, is there anything that you identify with that's currently out there? It can be any, I don't know, brand, person, something like that, because maybe then you can look at that business from a outside point of
Yeah,
view and understand what those values are and say, okay, well, I align with that. Maybe that has something to do with my own internal values.
yeah, I think that's a great idea. Great idea, especially if you're growing.
Yeah,
Love it.
cool. All right.
All right, thanks, Alex. That was good.
All right. And I'll see you soon.
See you soon.
Bye
Bye.
bye. That wraps up this episode of Giraffes Don't Eat Steak. Thanks for joining us. I hope you found value in our discussion and got some new ideas to apply to your own business. Tune in next week for another round of marketing insights and inspiration. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. We appreciate you listening. Catch you next time on Giraffes Don't Eat Steak.